What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning in to this broadcast of Mi Casa Su Casa. And as usual, I am your humble host, Niko House. We are definitely going to have a hell of a show today, as I'm sure all of you can imagine. What a week. What a weekend. What a day. It seems to me that there is almost nothing we can do to escape this hysteria that is the Russiagate scandal. Let's just forget about the facts that the fact that the Democrats have literally thrown the immigrant situation way out the window, right? It's crazy. It came and went as fast as their conviction to make sure that DACA was still upheld. It's almost like the Dems don't really care about the issues that they claim they're fighting for. Like it's only really important if they can get votes off of it, or if Donald Trump hasn't said something more appealing to Twitter and to Facebook and to social media in general. Y'all, it's exhausting. This is exhausting. Why can't we talk about, like, I want to have a show one day where we get to get really excited, like, yo, we're going to have single payer healthcare. Can you believe that? No, we can't. Right? I want to have a show. I've been saying this for, I don't know, man, what? How many people have been for the last I've been saying for about 2.5, 3 years now. Every day I feel like, or now, back then it used to be Friday. Now it's on Monday. And I feel like every Monday, every show that I have to do, I have to be like, what the hell are we doing in this country? I don't know whose quote-unquote representatives these people are. I am not sure who they claim to be helping, but they are not helping myself. They are definitely not helping you. Between both the Democrats and the Republicans, they don't seem to give a damn really about any of us. They don't care about world peace. They don't care about the things that we hold most dear. And it's just exhausting. It really is. It's getting exhausting having to explain to people that maybe you should do some research before you try to make just disgusting comments. When I say disgusting, I mean it's disgusting how lazy these comments are. Oh man. Listen, people. Let's just go ahead and get started. So, before we get started, as usual, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this broadcast on American Freedom Radio. Make sure that if you have not yet, that you go follow them on Twitter, go follow them on Facebook. You can look at my archived episodes, or other great journalists and broadcasters as well on American Freedom Radio's website. Just go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Danny, if I got that wrong, sorry. I'm pretty sure that we got it mostly right. If you type in American Freedom Radio, it'll come up pretty quick. That's all you need to know, people. So, want to shout out everybody who is watching on Just Informed. This is our second MCSC American Freedom Radio broadcast on Just Informed. So I want to thank everyone who is tuning in on Just Informed. If you have not yet, make sure that you go register for Just Informed and join this evolution in social media that we have started. You can do so by going to justinform.com. Make sure that if you are registering for the first time, that it doesn't matter what you use for your username, but for your actual name, make sure that you use your first and your last name unless you have a recognizable pseudonym, because you may be a personality. You know how that goes. That's common sense to you all. But you cannot come into the platform using one name and expect to get approved unless you have a significant bio and a Twitter link where your profile, like your person can be proven. Because, well, as we know, there's a lot of bots out there, right? Ruining Facebook, ruining Twitter, ruining YouTube. The last thing we want is to have the same problem on Just Informed, and we have a heightened security because of that. But that's for your protection and ours, of course. But it's also to protect the integrity of the platform, which I think is super important, considering a lot of people have come there because they're just tired of dealing with Facebook and Twitter and all the bias that has been demonstrated by both platforms, specifically Facebook. A little less Twitter, but specifically Facebook. So what else do we have? What we got a shout out? No. Yeah. If you have not checked out the segment that I put out yesterday with Amanda Cummings, you can do so on my YouTube page. It's right there. And I put it out yesterday. It talks a little bit of this conversation that we're going to have today, along with some other stuff. And I also have put up the segment of the Julian Assange vigil where I was interviewed by Elizabeth Lee Voss. Julian, if you have not checked that out, go show, if you can, go show support to Julian Assange, tweet support. His mom has been very, very active on Twitter as of late, which is a great thing, and we hope that continues. And so yeah, I think that pretty much covers all of that good stuff. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. People, I'm getting real tired of the Russiagate nonsense. I really am. It's getting to the point now where, I mean, it's not like it wasn't scary before, right? So it's always been a little scary. But it was never like this. It was never like this. And like, for example, and I hate that I hate that I gotta call him out on this, because you all know how I am. As a person, Bernie is my homie. He's my homie. I love Bernie. Got a lot of love for him. I don't think he's perfect. I do admit that he can make mistakes. I don't think that he is absolutely perfect. But me and Birdman got a problem right now. We got a problem. And the reason why is because I go on Twitter. I'm doing my scroll thing. Like, oh God, Russia. Putin in Russia. Trump and Putin in Russia. Russian bot. Trumpster, Russian bot. Putin puppet. Trumpster puppet. Putin, Trumpster, Billy Puckett. Russia. That's pretty much what I saw on Twitter today. Different variations of that. And as I'm scrolling through this nonsense, I come across a tweet that was ill-advised, misinformed, ignorant, inconsistent, ideologically inconsistent, politically inconsistent, from one senator that I know and love, Bernie Sanders. And like I say over and over again, and I will not stop saying it because I truly feel that way. As a person, I love Bernie Sanders. I love what he stands for. I love what he's done. I still think that he would be the second best presidential candidate. Only reason I say second best because I am on the record already as stating that if I could have it my way, I would go with Tulsi Gabbard, someone who I know for the most part is as definitively anti-war as you can get. And more importantly, I know that she can legitimately evolve, as in when she has views that are challenged, when she does her research and understands them a little bit better than what she had in the past, she will admit her biases, move forward, and then grow from them. Unfortunately, it seems like Bernie Sanders is moving in the opposite direction of that sentiment. Bernie Sanders tweeted out that Trump's comments or his, that during that press conference, excuse me, got something in my eye, but he tweeted out that the comments were embarrassing. He even went on to say that even the Republicans are upset with Donald Trump because everybody cares about Republicans, especially establishment Republicans care about, because they only pick and choose what to care about based off of who pays them. We all care about that, right? But what's even more surprising is that Bernie came off in this particular tweet as a 100% complete and total hypocrite. Now, before there are those people who come out and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're bashing Bernie. You can't, he's the best." We can't talk trash about Bernie. We can't call him out whenever necessary because of 2020. You already know how I feel about that, people. I am not in that camp of people that is willing to hold my tongue. I am not willing to just ignore things like what Bernie Sanders did merely to further my political agenda. That is exactly how it starts. Well, really, that's exactly where it ends. These are the same complaints that populists, progressives like myself have about, Caitlin Johnstone talks about this, Susie Dawson talks about this, Elizabeth Voss talks about this, Tim talks about this, a lot of people do. These are the complaints that we have about Trump supporters who literally can admit he doesn't, they think he is Jesus reincarnated. They really believe that. They don't call out the fact that he has escalated war, he has let Yemen slide, he has he hasn't kept up with his promises to cut back on tax on the middle class. Because if you look at the legislation, he's doing the total opposite. Over the course of 5 years, he'll be raising taxes on the middle class. So and I feel that way, that they need to be calling him out, then if you are one of those Bernie supporters who are telling me that I should ignore conveniently this just dangerous and, quite honestly, like I said, ideologically inconsistent rhetoric being spewed by Bernie Sanders, then I would be a hypocrite. And I am not in that class. I am not in that camp. I am anti-war, period. Not period, asterisk, with a question mark. I am pro-peace, period. Not asterisk, asterisk, maybe, unless there's some oil over there. Like, no, that's not how I operate, and I take a lot of pride in that. So if you're coming onto this particular stream to complain about Bernie Sanders bashing, then you can either do one of two things. You can listen, have an open mind, be objective, or you can get the hell out. I don't even care anymore, because you're going to have your opinion anyway, so why listen to mine? Right? So those are two options. So let's get to it. Bernie Sanders. There was this one guy. I think his name was Shrub. I think it was President Shrub. George M. Shrub was his name. And he tried to sell us this nonsense once upon a time. He tried to sell us some magic beans that were buried in a rock that nobody had ever seen before, nobody had confirmed. But his friends, his homies, they all reached out to George M. Shrub and said, "Hey man, look, we can make a lot of money off these magic beans, but don't you think that we should at least check to make sure that they're there?" "Nah man, just take our word for it, Mr. Shrub, President Shrub. The magic beans are buried in a rock. Are you absolutely positive about this? Jesus came over and told us so. You know how you feel about Jesus, don't you? Now just go back to your little ranch and let's just call it Texas. Not to be confused with Texas, two different places. We're in an imaginary world right now. And You just go play with your horses, okay? And work on that golf swing and try not to get shot by Richard Chains, okay, Mr. Shrub. And you know, there were a lot of people who bought that because Mr. Shrub and all of his little colleagues went all around the village to the townspeople saying, man, we really have to go get those magic beans. They can feed the rest of the community. You know, if they're holding them all for themselves, they're going to let the beans go bad. They're going to use them against us. They're going to learn how to grow a crop that we can't grow. You know, they were telling all kinds of lies to the townspeople to get them all riled up and, you know, get them in a rabble so that they would all pick up their pitchforks and go to that town across the lake called Iraq, and not to be confused with Iraq, and just say, give me your goddamn beans. And you know what we're going to keep doing? We're going to destroy every single home in here until we get those damn beans. Those people never found those beans. But everybody said they were there, they said. All of the town's leadership, all the council people, all of those, the cavalry squadrons and the scouts that we sent forward, all of them said the beans were there. Who do they all get paid by? One person asked. Well, one of those guys who said it was a sailor. We used his boat to get across. Another guy who was also, weirdly enough, one of the councilmen. He was a blacksmith. Well, we used his swords and his shields. Well, that one owned a armory where we actually got our armor made at his place before we went over. And that one, he owns a gardening tool shop, so that's where we got all of our pitchforks from. And well, they own the farm where all of our food was made, and they produce a lot of more food, but you know, we had to pay a little bit of extra tax because of war. And wait a minute, it seems to me that all these people who said we should go over to Iraq, not to be confused with Iraq, across the ocean to get those magic beans that nobody ever found, it seems like they all got paid to say these things. But one of the eldest village people from this place called Brook Hill. He's from Brook Hill. That's what they called it. Brook Hill, not to be confused with Brooklyn. He said, well, I don't feel like there's enough proof. I don't feel like there's enough proof for us to be sending soldiers into over across the lake to Iraq, not to be confused with Iraq. All these people have yet to prove why we should believe them. I'm going to have to vote against this, and he was the only council person who did. Bernie Sanders, that was you. That was you. When everybody else was getting, you know, they made money off their pitchforks, they made money off their arms sales, they made money off, you know, off of really the economy, right? They made money off of vehicle sales, military contracts. You saw through the propaganda at that time because of one simple fact. There was absolutely not even close to enough evidence to send people off to war to, one, die for no reason, or actually even worse, not even for no reason, but for someone else's dollar. Two, or three, wait, wait, two, three? I think we're at three now. One, for no reason. Two, could be worse, for somebody else's dollar. But three, we killed millions of innocent people because of that bill, or that war that was initiated, that you voted against because there was no evidence. So where is the evidence at now? Where is the evidence? Where's the evidence? I'm asking for anybody who knows. Where is the evidence? Where is the damn evidence? Some people make here like, oh, no, we got evidence, right? We got all this evidence and no, we don't have evidence. We don't. You know what the evidence was? Do you remember what it was at the time? All 17 intelligence agencies agree that probably, maybe, somehow, some way, Russia could have worked with Trump to hack the elections, whatever that means. If hack the elections, right? You hack the elections. That means you put your USB card into this little computer that Russia has in its headquarters somewhere, that apparently is also located in the United States, because that's where Gucci for 2.0 was. But anyway, that's a different discussion. We're going to deal with that later on down the line. But there's this little supercomputer that Russia has, right? They put their USB card in this little computer. They turn it on, press their the X on their PlayStation controller, and all of a sudden Trump is president. Hillary Clinton retroactively admitted through emails that she sold weapons to Russia. You know, or excuse me, yeah, well, no, not sold weapons to Russia. My apologies. Sold weapons to terrorists. My bad. I apologize. You know, they retroactively cheated Bernie Sanders retroactively. They went back in time after, and only after, Russia got that flash drive, that magical flash drive, put it in that magical computer. It's magic. That magical computer. And with one push of the X button on their PlayStation controller, boom! They must have had the cheat code of all cheat codes. That's what we're being told. That's what we're being sold. Do you know what's interesting? You notice why they can't say Trump disagrees with all U.S. intelligence agencies, or 17 U.S. intelligence agencies? Do you wonder why they can't say that? Well, because, ladies and gentlemen, that would be a lie now. Why? Because that story was retracted in silence, although it was printed in such a way that you just knew, because of this random anonymous source that for some reason was willing to talk to NBC before they were willing to actually do anything about it. Hey, we gonna trust those two sources and the 17 intelligence agencies that never said that, because the story got retracted. Remember? Retracted. The story was retracted. Do you understand something? I need you all to really understand, because I feel like there's not enough connectivity going. I feel like there's this sect of the populace who is observing and analyzing all of the issues politically or even socially in some ways, but they're analyzing these issues in a vacuum, and like separate vacuums of thought, because we're getting hit by so much. We're getting hit by so much weekly, daily. If you're like a comment, like people who do commentary and analysis like myself, hourly we get hit with stuff. When we have like 3 hours where we don't have to go, what the hell? Like, that's a good day for us, okay? Seriously. So people don't really connect a lot of things. And, you know, that's what we try to do on this show. We try to bring in the kind of zoom out a little bit. Zoom out. Stop zooming in so damn close. But people, I don't even know where to start. We already talked about the retracted story. Not story, by the way. It wasn't story. It was multiple stories. Now, who was the one who said that these investigations were legitimate? that we should just trust every single thing that comes out of these intelligence agencies' mouth? Who, in the same breath, by the way, in the same breath, he said we couldn't talk about the ongoing investigation into the Clinton Foundation. We couldn't talk about that because we didn't want to interfere with the outcome of the election. Even though what they're alleging Trump had done with Russia was actually being done with Clinton. I'm not even talking about the Uranium One deal. That's a different discussion. That's a whole different discussion. I'm talking about the quid pro quo behavior they're alleging had taken place on behalf of Trump by Russia. Because last time I checked, I don't know if you've looked into the numbers on Saudi Arabia's donations to Hillary Clinton and her super PACs, specifically the Clinton Foundation though. There's so much money in those donations that I would, and you probably would as well, might think that they're trying to influence the outcome of some election. Merth Cali from Merth Cali from YouTube said, Niko, make a timeline in a PDF. Man, that's a good idea. I think I might do that when I have some time though, because that is a hell of a timeline. But I do believe that that would be a huge help for everybody, to have a timeline that everybody can go back to be like, you're all full of shit. Read. Now, so the stories were retracted. So it went from 17 intelligence agencies to 2, only the CIA and the FBI. James Comey, the same one who said that we can't announce the Clinton Foundation investigation because it may influence the outcome of the election, decided to boldly and vociferously announce the Russiagate investigation. Interesting. He denounced Trump like no other. In fact, he has to be the most talkative intelligence or former intelligence agent that I have ever encountered in my entire life. This man talks about everything, every little thing. He talks, I mean, boy goes on a tour. You're like, ain't you supposed to shut the hell up after you get out? It went from 17 intelligence agencies to just 2, in which 2 of the top 3 in one of those agencies got fired. 1 lost, no, I lied. 2 lost their retirement. Do you know what it took for Andrew McCabe to finally go down? It literally took text messages that pretty much said, I will make sure that I keep Trump out of office. Also, by the way, my wife is taking money from Hillary Clinton and her friends to get into office, and that probably is going to obstruct my investigation, but who cares? It's her turn. That's literally, I mean, more or less, what the text messages had to say before your guy, Jeff Sessions, finally had to say, well, I guess we have to hold him accountable now. We'll just fire him, though. We can't indict him. Like, these intelligence officers, in case you don't remember, and most specifically at that time, Andrew McCabe used his power and his position, despite having multiple known conflicts of interest, to undermine. I don't give a damn about Donald Trump. I could care less about that guy. But I do care about the office of the presidency of the United States of America. I do care about people abusing their positions for political agendas and personal agendas. I do have a significant problem with people manipulating the will and the views of the people for personal gain or to propagate the military-industrial complex. And we saw a combination of all 3 from Andrew McCabe and James Comey. Listen, people, what people fail to forget is that all of a sudden we're supposed to trust the FBI. We're supposed to trust the CIA, and hell, we're even supposed to trust the NSA. The same FBI who wouldn't even go to the NSA to get Hillary Clinton's emails because they just forgot that they had them. They just forgot. So we just gonna ignore the fact that Andrew McCabe's wife was literally took what, 700,000 from Hillary Clinton's camp to lose in Virginia. So I mean, we can talk about Peter Strzok's and Lisa Page's text messages on burner phones, which is a really important aspect, by the way, of that investigation that nobody wants to really talk about. They're like, oh yeah, Peter Strzok did a good job. You know, nah, bro, no. First of all, you want to, oh, they have a right to free speech. Boy, you got burner phones. And which, by the way, that should put a little bit of fear in all of our hearts about the intelligence community regarding Lisa Page and Peter Strzok. Bro, y'all are FBI agents. Have you never heard of Signal? You can literally get an app for encrypted text messages. Any dumbass can figure out that we are in an era where I don't give a damn if your phone's a burner phone or not. All you gotta do is, hey, AT&T, hey man, go dig that burner phone information up out the trash for me. I'd appreciate it. I need all that. Who is this? Oh, this is the NSA. Oh shit. Okay, cool. You know what? You got it. Man, you better get the Signal app and stop playing Peter Strzok. That's all it took. You were just being cheap with your iTunes store and you didn't use YouTube. YouTube would have told you what to do. I'm a little upset with YouTube right now, but you know. But anyway, so we know about the infinite conflicts of interest, right? The infinite conflicts of interest by McCabe, James Comey, the CEO of CrowdStrike, who used to work with McCabe and James Comey. Oh, by the way, who brought in Robert Mueller, who used to work with McCabe and James Comey, and the CEO of CrowdStrike, which, by the way, the CEO of CrowdStrike used to be in the FBI. He was in the top ranks of the FBI as well before he retired. Yeah. Okay, so, and then what? James Clapper. That's not a good look. I don't believe anything James Clapper says. Okay, not at all. Nothing. James Clapper could tell me right now that it's sunny outside, and I'm going to tell you that it's raining. Because if it came out of James Clapper's mouth, it's a damn lie. Okay? But what evidence do we know? What evidence do we have from all of these agents? Because maybe they're unbiased in every other aspect. Because I use this discussion when I'm having conversations with Israelis about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The same logic applies. So what we're saying is the FBI and the CIA were wrong about Vietnam. They were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about MLK. They were wrong about, well, they lied to y'all about JFK. They're still hiding stuff from you about JFK and RFK. The FBI and the CIA were wrong about Malcolm X. They were wrong about Huey P. Newton and the Black Panthers. The same FBI that currently and recently has opened up a black extremist log to track down and hunt down innocent black people, pretty much. The very same FBI that used to be directed by none other than George H.W. Bush. This the same CIA? The same CIA? We gonna take their word for it. Oh, so what you're telling me is if you're on the left, God forbid, if you are supporting the FBI and the CIA, you're not progressive and you're not a populist. So I just want to go ahead and clear that up for you in case you're curious. You're not with us. Please don't pretend to be. But if you were on the left, neoliberal or otherwise, you don't and didn't believe the FBI and the CIA on literally anything else but this one issue, because Trump's name is attached to it. It's like what I tell my Israeli friends. I said, so you don't like Netanyahu? Hell no, we hate Netanyahu. Dude has like a 30% approval rating. Okay, well, do you like Lieberman? Hell no. We don't like Lieberman. Okay. And you don't trust them? Hell, they're corrupt. They are super corrupt. All they care about is their money. All they care about is X, Y, Z. Okay. And I agree with you. So how do you feel about his recent comments on Palestine? Oh no, absolutely, 100% I agree with them. Wait a minute, hold on. How do you he just authorized the shooting of 50 Palestinians? Yeah, but they were throwing tires at our wall. We had to defend ourselves. That's what Netanyahu said. Okay, hold up, double back, rewind. You just said you didn't trust anything that this man said. You just said that Lieberman is a war hawk and a war criminal, and they're all corrupt. Oh. How did you change your mind that fast? Maybe, just maybe, because you're emotionally involved and has been coaxed into believing a narrative about a particular people to the point of bigotry and xenophobia, because they've convinced you that those people are standing in the way of your basic liberties, despite the fact that they have and want nothing to do with you. Could that be what it is? Maybe. I would probably argue yes. Is that not the same? The people on the left specifically, they forget who the CIA and the FBI is. They are not to be trusted. Do you want to? It feels eerily similar to Iraq, because in 2002, 75 plus generals and former intelligence agents took to the media. They were hired by the MSNBCs, Fox News, and the CNNs of the world. If they were not on the media in the front, they were operating the intelligence or the fabrication of such intelligence in the back. And guess what they were doing? Iraq, we can trust. But what about the UN? Nah, fuck them. They don't know what they're talking about. And they keep going and pushing until everybody eventually, including myself at one point, when I was really young when Iraq happened. But I was like, I mean, if everybody's saying it, I guess it's true, right? Huh? It turned out that all 75 of those intelligence experts that we just know and love all of a sudden, out of literally nowhere, all those intelligence experts, all those generals, they were all being contracted by various military contractors. In other words, they all had vested interests in feeding you bullshit and sending your kids, not themselves, not their kids, but your children, to either die or kill someone else, an innocent person who did nothing but exist in their own nation. Now, what have we seen a recent uptick in? Well, not only have we seen a recent uptick in intelligence or prior intelligence community assets coming onto MSNBC, like getting hired by MSNBC, getting hired by CNN. But we've also seen an uptick in intelligence assets even running for office. We've seen an uptick in intelligence revealing political motives and then having the Democratic Party back them. So I just want to make sure that we all understand this. The same CIA, cause I have to keep giving examples, because I feel like what the hell? Why do I even have to give these examples? But the same CIA that created a propaganda campaign against Mossadegh in Iran in 1951 only because he was going to nationalize the oil supply in Iran. They created a fake campaign against him. They unseated him. They created a PSYOP. They funded a terrorist organization in Iran to push him out because they wanted to nationalize their oil. The same CIA who did that, we like them now, is what we're hearing. Is that, am I getting this correct? I mean, literally the same CIA that, like, I'm so confused. I don't, you know, I don't know what the hell is going on with the left. I don't know if it's a football team thing that they, that mentality that we have with sports in America. But at some point, common sense has gone 100% out the window. And Bernie, I ask you this because you displayed your common sense in the past. But how is anybody going to celebrate the competence of an intelligence community? Two people, by the way. There's a reason they keep saying agencies instead of 17 agencies, because that story got ridiculously retracted like it should have been, and it should have been retracted hard as it was pushed. It should have been everywhere that story was retracted. But only, of course, the independent community covered it as usual. But how are we going to brag and celebrate the competence of an intelligence and investigative community that hasn't even grabbed or looked at or examined the servers that they're supposedly about to wage World War III with Russia over? That's all I'm asking. I know it may seem too simple of a request, but before you ask me to put blind faith, and no, it's actually not blind. If I am blind, however, it's because the CIA or FBI purposely blind me so we couldn't see what was coming, because that's literally what their job is. Their job is to do that. Their job is to lie to the American people, get us to believe whatever they want us to believe, and then do whatever the media tells us to do. So you want me to put my faith in this intelligence and investigative community that couldn't and hasn't even had the competence to look at the very servers, that they are claiming have been hacked. They haven't had the competence to reach out to one of the maybe two people, because one of them has unfortunately passed away. Kim.com reached out to Robert Mueller, said, I have all of the proof you need right here that Russia was not the leak, or that Russia did not hack anything. I know who the leaker is. I will give written testimony right now if you just include Seth Rich's murder investigation into... Oh, that wasn't even his stipulation at the time. He said that he would give testimony. He called Robert Mueller multiple times. He tweeted about it just about every time he's called him. He's openly came out on Twitter in other ways and said, I have the information you need. We don't really have to keep doing this. We don't have... Do you know why he's being ignored? Well, I think my theory is for two reasons. One, because it would kill the investigation before the elections, and Democrats can't have that. The deep state can't have that. You know what's funny? One of my close colleagues had told me, he's in the military, and he told me, he said, you know what's funny? He said, I watch your videos, and you're right about Putin and Trump. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, Trump, even though he does some really stupid stuff, he and Putin are on the same page. They know what's going on behind the scenes. They know who's pulling the strings. They've both done heat checks because they want to see which one of the imperialists are going to jump. Who's going to show or overplay their cards. And I believe that's what the Syria situation was about. I already told y'all the facilities that were destroyed didn't have any chemical weapons. So that's two. We launched 2 missile strikes on a country for literally no reason before an investigation was taking place. Except for this time, the second time, definitively so. there was no casualties. And Syria did a very good job stopping those missiles. And apparently, according to international news, Putin actually warned Syria, because he was warned by us that we were going to be launching, so that they can prepare. This is the same intelligence community that said that there was chemical weapons attacks in Syria, by the way. Not just this time, but last year. And in 2013, when the quote-unquote red line, as coined by Obama, was crossed. Do you know how many of those chemical weapons attacks have actually been found to have had happened? Not a single one. That intelligence community is the one we're going to trust. We're going to trust the intelligence community that thought that they should use burner phones while texting about undermining the office of the presidency of the United States of America instead of just using the damn Signal app or something. Anything other than something that literally goes back to your cell phone company, which can easily be pulled up by NSA. Our standards for leadership have grown uncomfortably low. You won't interview key witnesses. You say that Assange is the reason it was working with Russia, I guess. And that's a really weird story, by the way. When we think about that, because along the way, that's kind of gotten away from the entire discussion, which of course is that's on purpose. Because eventually, you talk about Julian Assange enough, people start doing research on Julian Assange and realize that the Democrats loved him. They praised him when he was exposing Bush and Cheney's administration. You come to find out that Chelsea Manning was released by Barack Obama, had her sentence commuted, and yet Chelsea Manning gave all that information to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks, all of a sudden, Julian Assange was from Australian to Russian in one term? In one presidency? Where does it end? Or if you're not going to show me where it ends, at least tell me where the evidence begins. I would be interested in that. Because as of right now, you all are making a bunch of damn fools out of yourselves. You look just awful. You look sad and desperate. And definitely when we come back from break, I'm going to break down to you all the just horrible press conference by Donald Trump. It was just bad. It was horrible. Talks about peace and productive dialogue and denuclearization. It was atrocious. Okay? It was horrible to look at. Even worse to listen to. Couldn't believe Donald Trump actually reading a speech off of paper that he pre-prepared before going into a press conference, not acting braggadociously or speaking loudly and aggressively, actually sounding like a compassionate human being that doesn't want to play in the partisan politics. The nerve of that guy. He's got something up his sleeve. Must be. So we're definitely going to talk about that before we get back from break. But before we go to break, we got about 5 minutes on YouTube. Does anybody have any questions for me? And if you do have any, you can either pose them to me on YouTube or you can do it on Periscope too if you want. You can go on Periscope. But It doesn't look like there's any so far, but yeah. Uh, in our second hour, by the way, we're gonna talk about the indictments. After we talk about Trump's little speech, we're gonna talk about the net neutrality situation that just came up recently. The DOJ is actually doing something that it's supposed to do. It's going to address or trying to readdress the merger of AT&T and Time Warner, so that's a good thing. And we're going to talk about the press conference of the Seth Rich investigation. I don't know if you all know. If you're new to the game, then you may have not heard that the DNC staffer Seth Rich was murdered, and for a long time the investigation was kind of at like a standstill on behalf of the DC police, and it seemed like everybody else stopped paying attention to it outside of independent news. And then a witness came forward maybe 3 days ago who ironically enough implicated Rosenstein in the Seth Rich investigation, and supposedly he has done some things to kind of make you be like, oh snaps. Make it. I'm gonna put it like this: if you think it isn't a big deal, then ask yourself why the Daily Beast, the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, Yahoo News, and a couple of other publications all showed up to listen to that press conference, and then you didn't hear anything about it outside of the Daily Beast, because that's what the Daily Beast does. They were trying to ridicule it, but you didn't hear anything about it the next day or the day after that. Because let's be honest, when it comes to the Seth Rich conversation, they are hella quick. They are hella quick to try and ridicule you. They go, I mean, think about it. Whenever Rod Wheeler announced the information, the little bit of information that he revealed about the Seth Rich investigation, remember that, how they reacted the next day? Immediately ridiculed, attacked as a right-wing pundit, called a police department reject. I mean, attacked in every way you could think of. They never even really addressed what he said. Brad Bowman was hired to the Seth Rich family. All of a sudden, they went from making public appearances to handwritten letters by Brad Bowman on behalf of the family. So, what makes this particular situation so different? Why when this witness came out? Why has the media not reacted in the way that they've reacted in the past whenever new information has released? And that is something that we are going to be addressing in the second hour. So make sure that you tune back in at 8 p.m. Eastern on the hour. Hold up, somebody said, "Oh, what's up, Micah? You make very interesting and reasonable arguments, Niko. It is true the intelligence agency has had questionable history, and sometimes it's been very wrong or very right, depending on who profits." That is true. That is very true. Bonnie Flournoy. If they're attacking, it's because they have something to hide. Absolutely. So, give us about 5 minutes, people, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. What's up, everybody? We are back. Thank you for tuning back into Mi Casa Su Casa. I hope that you all went and did what you had to do. Got your water, got you coffee. That's what I had to go get. I had to get some more coffee. As usual, shout out to Tim Black. Go check his show out if you have not. Yeah, you know, I had to go wet my whistle a little bit. It's hard talking for 2 hours, believe it or not. But once again, I do want to thank everyone who is tuning in on justinform.com, and you can do so as well. All you have to do is register at justinform.com. Go to the MCSC contributor page and join us in this revolution of social media we started. We are so tired of the censorship. We are so tired of the lies. We are so tired of the Twitter bots. Probably the Twitter bots more than anything else. But what we did with Just Inform is provide a place that we can all sit down, have a real conversation, get to the meat of the issues, whatever those issues may be. It doesn't just have to be about politics. There's a lot of issues in the world. And there's always somebody who is going to try and sensationalize it and make money off of it. All right. So, if you missed it, just got done giving Bernie Sanders a history lesson on why we should not even be close to thinking that we should give, for the first time in history, the benefit of the doubt to the CIA and the FBI. There is not one single reason as to why I would trust the CIA or the FBI. I don't know if y'all know this. I hope you do, but I don't know. Maybe it's the first time. Y'all know the FBI, right? And the CIA, both of the directors are appointed. Now, there's also something pretty interesting that some of you should consider. Who appoints the second in command? Well, the leader of the FBI. Well, then who appoints the Attorney General? The President, okay? And who appoints the FBI director? The President. CIA Director? The President. Well, who appoints the Deputy Attorney General? Well, that would be the President also. Well, if a Supreme Court Justice dies suddenly, who appoints that Supreme Court Justice? Well, it does have to be voted on, but it's the President also. Well, if the President appoints the Director of the CIA and the Attorney General, or the Deputy Attorney General and the Supreme Court, and then how do you figure that things will get taken care of? How do we figure that partisan agendas will not come into play? Well, Johnny, they do come into play. That's the problem. We need to be voting for these positions. There is absolutely no reason the president should be able to get to just appoint the positions that affect us as a nation, that affect our sovereignty. Like, he shouldn't be able to point his finger and say, what have you done for the establishment lately? Come right on down. No, the Supreme Court justices, the FBI directors, the NSA directors, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, all these directors should have to appeal to the American people and explain to us exactly why we should take your word for anything at all whatsoever. Some people may think that's insane, but don't you see campaign signs outside? Vote blase blah for judge. Yeah, that's because that's a thing. In every other aspect of the judicial system, you're voting for the judge. I think the only time that you don't is whenever you get a federal judge. And those are appointed too, I believe. And actually, the U.S. attorneys that are prosecutors are also appointed by... Bill Clinton fired almost every single U.S. prosecutor in the country and then replaced him with all of his own people. And yet and still, we are curious as to why we're having the issues that we're having right now. This investigation the investigation that was started by people appointed by Barack Obama, and let's be very forthcoming, it was really Hillary Clinton, right? Who was Obama's chief of staff in the second term? John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's homeboy. He was literally going to be her chief of staff next. Also was chief advisor to Bill Clinton. Who did Comey and Andrew McCabe work with in New York a little bit over a decade and a half ago? Actually longer than that now. I think almost 2 decades ago in the 90s. They worked with Hillary Clinton. Who did Eric Holder, one of Obama's former attorney general, who did he work for in the 90s? Bill Clinton. James Comey also worked for Bill Clinton. Are we starting to see a problem with the way our system is currently constructed? Now, all of those same people, one who is extremely effective in getting the Uranium One deal pushed through, which we found out earlier this year, that Russians just absolutely knew was going to go through because of Hillary Clinton occupying the Secretary of State office. They knew. That's what the FBI informant found out. They knew. They were so confident that Hillary's collaboration with Russia was going to be successful because she had picked everybody who was in charge of making that deal go through. That was the Russiagate scandal that everybody missed. That had plenty of factual, verifiable, circumstantial, corroborative, every single type of evidence, whether it be quantitative or qualitative. That story was the Russiagate scandal. That was totally ignored, by the way. Even TYT, they literally lied about the story. They lied about it. What did they say? That's been debunked. It's really Trump we should be worried about. Before I get into the press conference with Donald Trump and Putin, I just want people to understand we can't be surprised. Like, what if Trump was doing whatever he did? I do know that he's, at the very bare minimum, he's violated the Emolument Clause. He's enriched himself and his brand off of the office of the President of the United States. Like, nobody's naive to that. But here's the problem with that. You know why he's doing it? Because he can get away with it. You know why? It's for the same reason. Do you know why they will never impeach Donald Trump under the Emolument Clause? Because 98% of all people in the House of Representatives and all the senators, they're all violating the Emolument Clause. They're all worried about their stocks. They're worried about the money coming in from their lobbyists. They're all personally profiting from the Emolument Clause. And Trump would be as retaliatory as he can be, as he wants to be, if they ever tried to impeach him under the Emolument Clause. They just wouldn't do it. But I will say, if you think that Trump has the political clout and capacity to be anything close to what Hillary Clinton and her little mafia was and is still to this day, you have lost your mind. Funny enough that Bonnie brought up she brought up Ed Schultz. Bonnie from YouTube, but she brought up Ed Schultz. That's the best example I could think of. Hillary Clinton had so much pull Not just in the Democratic Party, but in really the Democratic Party and even a lot of the Republican Party. Believe it or not. She had so much pull that when Ed Schultz tried to go live to announce that Bernie Sanders was running for office, they shut him down before Bernie's campaign even began to have legs. You didn't even know who Bernie Sanders was when this happened. But Hillary Clinton was promised that office by literally everybody. People and executives in MSNBC were waiting for spots in her administration as their spouses, their siblings, whatever, were already holding spots in the Obama administration. That's how much, I mean, that's just an ounce. That's not even an ounce of how much pull. They made it seem as if Bernie Sanders did not exist because of Hillary Clinton. He was the most Googled candidate on the internet. He was the most Googled thing on Google, on the internet during the next day or so, 24 hours after that debate. The most Googled thing on the internet. And they convinced y'all that nobody cared about the guy, that his policies were not resonating. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounded? But it didn't sound ridiculous. Why? Because Hillary Clinton had control of the media, who made it seem like you were ridiculous for everything, and that it was ridiculous for us to be suspicious about the guy that was Googled the most, but apparently nobody cares about him. Apparently his policies were not resonating with the rest of the country. That's why so many people cared about who he was. Because you already know who was being Googled next. Everybody Googled, dang, I can't remember his name now. Martin O'Malley, because we all know that he was a strong third. He was right there with Bernie Sanders. If you can't see my hands and you're on the radio, they're not close together. Because everybody cared about Martin O'Malley's policies. Everybody was Googling Martin O'Malley, right? No. Everybody came to Martin O'Malley's rallies. No. Everybody came to Hillary Clinton's rallies. Hell no. But Bernie Sanders sold out, just good God. Football stadiums worth of people going to his rallies. But he wasn't the most popular candidate in the country. That's how much pull this woman had. So when we add that with the fact that all these people were handpicked by her, and they're all pointing at Trump and saying, hey, ignore everything that's happening right now. Ignore the fact that we're literally cheating your candidates every day. Ignore the fact that Alexandria Ocasio won her primary, and yet her opponent who promised to endorse her is now running as a third party, even though they are the ones who said that third parties are the devil. You know, those are the bad parties. They're the spoilers. Ignore that. Ignore the fact that, Madeleine Albright said there's a special place in hell reserved for a woman who does not endorse and support another woman candidate. And as Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein endorsed, and Hillary Clinton endorsed Andrew Cuomo over Cynthia Nixon, and endorsed Joseph Crowley over Alexandria Ocasio. Ignore all that. Ignore the fact that there is lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, both open and have actually been won, where the Democrats have been found absolutely cheating progressives and were found absolutely cheating Bernie Sanders. Let's ignore the fact that Jill Stein's Jill Stein's recount. Remember, because they were trying to push that maybe, Trump stole this. That's the narrative, right? Jill Stein said, okay, bet, I'll bite. Let's investigate it. Let's go ahead and do an audit. Oh, wait a minute. No, we can't. Because then guess what we found out? Wayne County, which is where Detroit is, the voting machines, that there were so many issues that the voting machines, like over half of them, could not even have the votes tally reconciled. As in, we don't know who the machine, but it seemed that it was only Hillary's votes that could be reconciled, that weren't tampered with. And matter of fact, it was like that in Milwaukee County too. And as a matter of fact, it seemed like the only person who or at least mostly benefited from any election rigging was Hillary Clinton. But they don't talk about that audit anymore. In fact, they tried to make when Jill Stein said, "I'll bite Hillary," you think that Trump stole it? Let's find out together. What did they do? They painted her as a Russia bot. Pictures started circulating of Jill Stein sitting beside Vladimir Putin, where the caption failed to mention they were at a fucking, like, a peace conference, and she just happened to be at that table. What you are experiencing, people, if you don't know your history, this is neo-McCarthyism, McCarthyism 2.0. You have to understand our history with Russia in order to understand how ridiculous you or any of your friends may sound when you're perpetuating this nonsense. I implore all of you to go and check out that press conference by Donald Trump whenever we get done, by Trump and Putin. Whenever we get done with this broadcast, go look at that. Do you know Donald Trump, he wasn't braggadocious and egotistical. He was actually calm. He was reserved. He actually read a prepared speech, which is unlike him. He obviously praised Putin for holding a fantastic World Cup, which is what most presidents would do, which is why I was surprised that he did it. Usually that's where he chimes in with but we're better. We could have did it better. That's usually what he does. But he didn't do that. He complimented him and left it at that. He said that we want to facilitate productive dialogue. He said that we don't want to be swayed by partisan games and partisan politics. He said that we should be promoting peace, that we should be working together. He said that right as we speak, that North Korea apparently is working on denuclearization. That's obviously hard to verify, but I just knew that, I mean, because I know that the media exaggerates. I know that they exaggerate, but I'm like, if they're all going this hard on Trump, Trump must have sounded like a blithering idiot. He must have sounded like a fool. He must have been like, just, this must be like him at his, like at his peak of megalomania. But that wasn't what I saw. In fact, this was probably the most well put together speech that I have ever seen from Trump. He was prepared. He was complimentary. He looked genuine, weirdly enough. And he said something that, whoo, saying it out loud is kind of scary, actually. And I'm not a fan of Trump. I'm not a fan of his personality. I'm not a fan of his tactics. I'm not a fan of a lot of his policies. I'm not a fan of how he's escalated the military-industrial complex. I'm not a fan of how he's kind of leaving Yemen in the dust right now. I'm not a fan of that. But, you know, the last president who openly opposed the U.S. intelligence agencies on an international stage and on a national stage, he didn't make it much longer after that. Now, there couldn't have been the outcry that we've seen recently on social media because there was no social media. And even the speech that JFK gave, where he told the world that he was not going to allow shadow governments and secret societies and, you know, people behind the scenes that claim to be our allies, that he wasn't going to allow them to take over this country and influence the geopolitical atmosphere. A lot of people never heard that. A lot of people have never heard that speech, but it is available. You go to YouTube right now, straight out of JFK's mouth, called out the deep state. Called him out. He didn't make it very long after that. Anybody who's called out the U.S. intelligence agencies for what they are, or have attempted to, have bit the dust. Somebody mentioned Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy. MLK, if you didn't know, was extremely anti-imperialist. He was anti-Cold War. He was anti-Vietnam War, amongst other things. But it's anti-U.S. imperialism. Why do you think they got Nelson Mandela locked up? Because the United States was pro-apartheid. We were paying for it. We were helping to fund it, excuse me. We were helping to fund it. If you look up the land that was given back recently in South Africa, a lot of that land was making money for us. If you look at the land that was taken back by Fidel Castro in Cuba, that land belonged to American corporations and those who were willing to play ball with U.S. corporations. So the fact that this now would be the first time in American history that a president has outwardly, and rightfully so, said, I am not going to let partisan politics, nor am I going to let baseless accusations from anonymous sources in the intelligence world dissuade me from making peace, if at all possible, with a country that if we went to war, it would be a hell of a war that I'm not sure we could win. It's the problems that we have with Russia. Many have not understood are a result of imperialism. There can only be one number one hegemon on the block. A lot of you don't know, but Russia borders some pretty important nations, Iran being one of them. Why do you think, you know how like we make fun of, I want to say either South Park or Family Guy made fun of this because it's kind of like real life, what we see. Stop resisting. You scream it loud enough that you can kill anybody you want to when you're a cop. I really want to say it was Family Guy. But they scream stop resisting and just shoot. But you got to scream that first. Remember what we did in Vietnam? We think that Russia wants to turn them communists. Oh, send everybody you can over there and bomb them with Agent Orange, by the way. Go ahead and do that. Laos, Cambodia, they might be communists. Whatever. Go just send people over there. North Korea, we had to carpet bomb the entire country because communism, duh. But what about those European countries that they kind of have socialism, right? And it's not the same thing, at least not right now. Look at those countries. They don't speak different languages and practice different religions. No. I mean, they do speak different languages, but we're all kind of Christian. Okay, well, why is it that we don't go and attack the communist nations that are supposedly still communist nations? Look, we had to attack Saddam so that Kim Jong-un couldn't continue to make nuclear weapons. Stop asking so many questions. Just accept it. back in the day, we couldn't do anything without screaming communism. Things have changed though, right? It was capitalism versus communism, and that was kind of conflated, purposely so. That's what propaganda is for. It was conflated into democracy versus dictatorship or totalitarianism. That's what it was conflated into, which is not the case. But that's how they wanted you to see it. Fast forward, now there's a war on terrorism, that was started by George W. Bush, which we kind of all realized, like, hold up, how are we going to destroy all the terror? Isn't terror like a very ambiguous concept? Like, it's pretty loaded. I mean, I'm scared of hell of death of spiders. Where's George Bush at whenever a spider crawling on my damn car door? You ain't fighting no terror then. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that the war on terror was then immediately reconnected to the Middle East, which was connected in some way, form, or fashion back to Russia. That's what they try to pull with this whole Syria thing. Oh, Russia hasn't been doing a good job fighting ISIS, so we have to go in there and drop bombs wherever we want to. And then, Trump got a little baited. He got a little baited. A little bit. Into being the most hated candidate. Right? He got a little bit. Trump is not uniquely bad as a president. He's not uniquely bad. He can be bad. He can be pretty unbearable at times. He needs to get the hell off of Twitter at times, too. It's entertaining, but it would be more entertaining if his account was a parody account. But it's not a parody account. It's a real account. Oh, man. That's what makes Trump's account so hilarious, by the way, on Twitter. Is because you're like, man, this is hilarious. I love these celebrity parody accounts. Oh, shit, this motherfucker is really the president of the United States of America. Hot damn Bojangles. Welcome to 2018. But he gets the short end of the stick when it comes to the media. And all we have to do to observe that is how much the media glorified Barack Obama. Did I say that right? Obama? I meant Obama. The same way they ignored how Barack Obama failed those Native Americans at Standing Rock when one young lady lost her eye, another young lady lost her arm. Barack Obama steadfastly waited and said, whenever it's time for me to interfere and make sure that these people get their basic human rights, I'll know there'll be a sign. That sign apparently never came to Barack Obama, and that pipeline was built, and the oil did leak into the water. So yeah. But they didn't give they gave Obama a pass on that. Barack Obama let Uranium One pass right under his nose. His chief advisor, John Podesta, had 50,000 shares in the Kremlin-backed energy company Juul while he was the chief advisor of Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton had the Clinton Foundation under Barack Obama after Obama told her to shut the shit down. She said, yeah, I got you. He don't run shit up in here. What he think this is? By the way, I want to thank everybody for the super chats that y'all have been dropping recently. Y'all have been on a roll, and I appreciate the contributions, and I appreciate your questions and your comments as well that you've included with the super chat. So, if you have any comments that you want me to catch out of the side of my peripherals, make sure you drop that super chat. But yeah, so what I was saying was that it's really hard. It's really difficult for me to want to thrash on Trump as hard as I want to sometimes, because they're like with Argentina was put on the Muslim ban list. A lot of people don't know that, But Argentina was put on the Muslim ban list because Argentina went to not only nationalize its oil, but also get off of the petrodollar in total and switch over to a cryptocurrency. And I don't know if you know this, but yeah, our dollar is sovereign. It's fiat currency until oil ain't here no more. Because, I mean, why do you think we back Saudi Arabia? Like, no matter what they do. They're literally bombing people right now. And we're like, yeah, but Trump is trying to make peace with Russia and North Korea. How dare he? The audacity of that guy. Now, rewind 2 years ago, by the way. 2 years ago. Trump is going to cause World War III. I am absolutely sure of it. I'm positive that he is going to upset Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un is going to find nuclear weapons that nobody ever knew existed because apparently he just recently got nuclear weapons. Trump is going to piss off Putin some way, even though he supposedly is working for him at the same time. But that was their argument. He's going to start World War III. And now the narrative, though, is how dare Trump be so soft on Kim Jong-un? What's all this talk of peace, man? What's up with that? Come on, guys. Don't you know that this is clearly for Russia? They hold a 2-mile border with North Korea. This is a power play by Russia, and Trump is playing right into their hands. How dare he want to end 40 or 50 years of unnecessary and undue tension between the United States and Russia. It's not like the rest of the world could be obliterated if we were to enter into a nuclear war with each other. It's not like that's the case, even though it is. Why would he want to do that? Freaking puppet. Whose team are you on? You don't have a bomb shelter? I have a bomb shelter. I've been ready for war. Where you been at? Clearly you're not playing for us. How dare that guy come up and say things like we should want a productive discussion with, you know, probably the one or two other countries that could literally take it to us militaristically. Because we haven't been advancing the way we need to, because all those billions of dollars aren't actually going to soldiers. They are somewhat going to weapons contractors, but mostly they're just going into people's pockets and disappearing. I mean, how dare the guy? He's a lunatic. He's a freaking lunatic. Really? This is where we're at as a country now? I saw more people upset that Trump's press conference or his meeting with Russia and the press conference went well than I actually saw people who were outraged by the fact that Hillary admitted in an email, very comfortably, by the way, very poignantly, yeah, we're giving this money to go to the rebels, which are terrorists, by the way. They co-opt words like rebel, because like the CIA does that. Just like civilian casualties became collateral damage. You know, that's what they do. Conspiracy theory became conspiracy theory. Even though if you conspire against, like the country or in any particular political office or anything like that, if you conspire to sell a bunch of drugs, if you conspiracy, if you conspire with people, it's like a federal charge, by the way. If you conspire to murder like somebody, that's a federal charge. You get that, right? But conspiracy theories are bad, even though it's against the law to conspire. But whatever, that's cool. And now all of a sudden, which is what should scare the hell out of you even more, Fox News has joined the they've been beating the war drum. How could Trump do this? How could he betray us by wanting peace with Russia? Now, what I hope will come out of this is that now they will start looking at the Iran deal like it was, well, it doesn't exist anymore, but like it was always intended to be. It was never supposed to bring peace. It was never supposed to help Iran. It was put in place so that the United States could come up with any reason they wanted to fabricate its violation. Literally, I'm not joking. With Iran specifically, I mean, they come up with lies about every country, right? That they feel like whenever we need their oil. I really wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. It's a fact. But they launched a missile, or it was considered a missile, but it wasn't. It was a satellite. It was verified as a satellite. It was nothing harmful about it. And the U.S. slapped sanctions on them without question, without investigation, claiming that it violated their Iran deal. And then they continued to do things like that over the last 2 years. So recently, with Iran, there have been a lot of civil unrest. Right after the quote-unquote Iran deal was violated. No nuclear weapons found, by the way, so they're going to hit you with the WMDs, but there have been none that have been found, of course. And this is right after Jared Kushner, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the leader of Jordan, and Netanyahu, and Lieberman all meet about this little rail that they want to use to transport oil supplies straight from Israel into Saudi Arabia, or vice versa, while being able to simultaneously bypass Iran and Syria. And they might not be able to completely bypass Iran. So they're essentially planning just in case they have to take out Iran. But Netanyahu is so scared of those mean old Arabians. He's so scared of those Saudi Arabians. So scared of Sharia law. Jared Kushner, and all those Republicans, they must be absolutely terrified of Sharia law. That's why they keep meeting with the Saudi Arabian royalty and literally capitulating to everything they demand. They're so scared of Sharia law that they're just turning a blind eye to Saudi Arabia bombing Yemen over and 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 over again. They're just really terrified of Sharia law. This idea that Iran was some third world country, that was McCarthyism. That was McCarthyism and an attempt to dehumanize the Iranian people, just like they dehumanize Afghanistan, just like they dehumanize the South Africans and Nigerians and the Somalians. I mean, it's the same thing. The xenophobia that we're seeing right now is not new. Now, the only difference, there is a significant difference, though, I will admit, which is the most troubling. I talked about it a little bit earlier. The main difference is that the left has always been smart enough to see through the lies and the propaganda. Not everybody on the left, but most of the left. The same way they blamed all the country's problems on the hippies and the blacks. Somehow we always get thrown in the mix. But the same way they used to blame, and the young people back in the day, they're blaming it on the millennials. And apparently, according to the FBI, the blacks again, because they have a whole black extremist list. So that's weird, but whatever. So they're blaming it on the millennials now. It's all the problems that are caused right now are our fault. Couldn't possibly be this military-industrial complex. Couldn't possibly be that. It couldn't possibly be these military contractors shoving billions into their own pockets while looking at us with a straight face and saying, "We don't have enough money for universal health care. We're so sorry." Oh, snap. Excuse me. I almost tripped over that wad of money on the floor. We have seen so much scapegoating. Bernie Sanders was the reason that Hillary Clinton lost, right? Because endorsing her before the fucking convention was just not quick enough for her. Then it was Bernie Sanders voters' fault that Hillary Clinton lost. Even though, unfortunately, more people from the Bernie Sanders camp voted for her than I would have liked. And then it was Russia's fault that Hillary Clinton lost. And they've been riding out with that for quite some time. Although, according to the Uranium One deal, the person that would benefit the most, or the country that would benefit the most from Hillary Clinton winning, would actually have been Russia. Weirdly enough. It was also Jill Stein's fault, remember? Because Jill Stein had the audacity to run for presidency. How could she? The nerve of that woman. It was Facebook's fault. It was James Comey's fault. Apparently at some point it was Bill Clinton's fault. What I'm trying to say is that nobody's asking, well, why don't we have health care? Why are we still in endless wars? Nobody's really asking, like nobody asked Hillary, because people blame us, but nobody asked, hey Hillary, were you gonna remove your, stop the fights with North Korea? Like, was that gonna be a thing? Nobody really asked that, except for, a few of us. But the answer to that was hell no. We found out later in her emails that were leaked that she was never going to end tensions with North Korea. She wanted them to continue. When Hillary Hillary, why can't we go to alternative energy? She had no intention on going to alternative energy, remember? Do you all remember? Hillary, stop fracking. Hell no. Why would I stop fracking? No. No intention on. Okay, so what about healthcare? We should keep the ACA because it's been working for like 1/5 of people, but universal healthcare would literally be cheaper than ACA for the government and for people. Yeah, but see, these insurance companies be cutting checks, and them checks is large. Seriously, that's why ACA made no sense, people. It made no sense. Well, what about NAFTA? I thought you said it was, are we going to be able to bring our jobs back? Are we going to work, create better deals with countries to make sure that our workers are still, we still have jobs? No. TPP, got to. Well, damn, Hillary. What exactly are you doing different than Donald J. Trump? What was better? Name one thing. I wasn't working with Russia. Yeah, that's a fucking lie. You were. You were literally putting people in place that you could control to push the Uranium One deal through that sold 20% of our uranium to Russia. What? Yeah, but Russia. That's where that conversation goes. But why did you take money from all these countries in the Clinton Foundation? Why aren't the neoliberals asking the questions? If they're so concerned about Donald Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin, why aren't they asking the questions that allowed this imaginary, well now I hope it's a real relationship now, but at the time, this imaginary relationship with Putin, why don't they question the actions of the people that allowed it to come into fruition to begin with? Why aren't you absolutely infuriated with Hillary Clinton refusing to campaign in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wyoming, in all the states that she lost? Why aren't you infuriated by the emails that were sent. I don't give a damn who leaked them. I really don't. I don't care who leaked them. Why are you not incensed by the fact that your Democratic Party was working with every possible entity they could to cheat the most popular candidate in the country, which would have given you the best chance to endorse Donald Trump, or to beat Donald Trump if you were just so sure? Donald Trump is not, well, in some ways he can be, but as far as the neoliberals, if we're in a vacuum speaking about Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, I will say over and over and over and over and over again, Donald Trump is not your enemy in the same way that Hillary Clinton is. In fact, like I said earlier, I think it is laughable to think that Donald Trump could be half the criminal that Hillary Clinton has been. Donald Trump got what passed? What? He got a tax. Taxes go up, they go down. It's going to be whatever. It's going to be gone. Donald Trump made some money off of his office, and he's going to get, yes, why? That's what they do, unfortunately. What else? What is it? What else? What has he gotten past? Even his Muslim ban, I think, is getting pushed back again. His immigration situation is getting reconciled in the courts. What, he couldn't even get his health care bill pushed through. What political clout does he have outside of his ridiculous popularity to get things done? Even with all the offices, all the checks and balances working in his favor, he's still having trouble getting things done. Do you honestly think that Hillary Clinton would have trouble getting anything done when she hits office, or if she had won? Do you really think that she would have had trouble pushing TPP? Do you think that? Maybe. But guess what? That's nothing a little Supreme Court judge to the Republicans wouldn't solve. And best believe she would have sold your ass out just like that. You see how quick Kennedy hopped off that bench? And guess what she would have used this? Because you don't think that if she was here when Kennedy decided to retire, that she wouldn't hit you with that, oh, well, we have to be careful? She would work with the Republicans to prolong a selection. And she would be like, hey, whatever you do, I mean, you technically can't filibuster anymore, but whatever you do, do not allow me to appoint somebody. And I will give you whoever you want to. Whoever you want in 2020 to make sure that I win re-election, because I will hold that over their head. Hillary Clinton is not even the most experienced person, but she does have clout. When I say experienced or qualified, she was not the most qualified candidate. Only Bernie Sanders was, like, if we want to be real. Hillary Clinton had one of the worst legislative records in all of the Senate. Like, it was bad. She couldn't even get shit past committee. Then she got like one thing passed, and it was like not even significant. It was nominal. Just seeing how things unfolded today, it's become painfully clear to me once again that we made the right decision. Right? We made the right decision by not allowing Hillary Clinton and her war hawk neoliberal asswipes to take that office and influence foreign policy. Trump has not been the best on foreign policy. He really has not. But hot damn if he ain't been better than Hillary Clinton. And I stand by that. He has work to do. But I will say this, that there is a very real, if he's genuine in that and his comments, if is a big ass if he is genuine in the sentiments he expressed during that press conference, people, then do you understand that could be a massive domino effect? Like, the tensions with Iran could be significantly reduced, because the tensions with Iran come from us not wanting Russia to control Iran. That's why we try to put autocratic, dictators, religious, hyper-religious, right-wing, theocratic dictators. That's what we do to every country we don't want controlled by Russia, because we control them. If the Iran narrative falls through for the U.S. imperialist world, that means all of a sudden Netanyahu's going to get really aggressive with Trump. Oh, and Trump does not like when people get aggressive with him. All of a sudden, the Israel-Palestine narrative starts getting broken up and broken down because of the tension between Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, Trump, because you know how Trump is, once you become Trump's enemy, your enemy becomes his friend. That's kind of how he does. And then all of a sudden, he starts helping out Palestine. And then Saudi Arabia comes down his back and he says, you know what? I've been waiting to launch this renewable energy shit on y'all. Bam! Look at my solar panels. I don't know if that's anything, but you know what I'm saying. But you would be surprised. This meeting is very reminiscent of the meeting that Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev had. Gorbachev tried to end the Cold War. He tried to reason with Ronald Reagan, but Reagan was a puppet. Reagan was in every facet an actor. That's what his job was. That's all he was put in the office of the presidency of the United States to do. He was put there to act, to make you feel American. Mr. Gorbachev, bring down the wall. Man, Ronald Reagan had nothing to do with that. Gorbachev, the intelligentsia, the working class people of the USSR brought down that damn wall. It was already in the works, like 4 years, I think 3 to 4 years running. It was already happening. The revolution in Russia had already started, and communist Russia already started. But he took credit for it. But Gorbachev met with him anyway and tried to end the Cold War, tried to make peace. Was being as humble and congenial as humanly possible, like to the point where he had Reagan outside, was about to just walk off, and he turns back around and says, please, let's end this. And you know what Reagan did? Which is why I kind of consider it an insult when people say that Trump is like Reagan. Trump is actually better than Reagan. I actually think I like Trump better than Reagan. Seriously. I don't like him, but I like him better. It's a spectrum with pretty much every presidency. I mean, I'm a black guy. Like, a lot of presidents existed with Jim Crow, so it's kind of hard for me to like any of them holistically. Yeah, they were kind of okay with us drinking at different water fountains and not being able to sit at the same schools. But I digress. So presidencies, all the presidents I like or dislike are on a spectrum. But I do like Trump better than Ronald Reagan. And I don't think that it's an accurate comparison. I think that actually, not even joking, I think that Trump is actually more like the idea of Ronald Reagan that Republicans have in their head than Ronald Reagan himself was. So, Reagan was about war. Trump apparently is about the peace. And with that said, people, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.